Hello, Motorrada World fans, and welcome to this very special live chat that we have with one of South Africa's greatest ever motorcycle riders, one that we love, the man that no matter what just keeps smiling and giving his all, and a rider and a person that we just love to support. It is, of course, Mr. Darryn Binder, who we're going to be talking to live tonight. So a big thank you to everyone for tuning in. Just some house rules, please. Get those questions in. I'll try and keep up with as many questions as I possibly can. It's not just about me and Daz. It's obviously about an open conversation with each and every one of you. Second thing is, especially if you are in the land of YouTube, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on our YouTube. We're trying to build that platform up. And then just enjoy it. If you're on Facebook, just again, like and share the post. Let's share this as far and wide as we possibly can, because I think it's going to be a great chat. We've already chatted to Brad Binder a couple of weeks ago. That was really insightful, and it's always good having Darryn Binder on the show to get his perspective on his first season in Moto 2, heading into the 2024 season, his second season in Moto 2, and just the life and everything that's happening with Darryn Binder. So good evening, everyone. Already Joe Alves, Daryl Nathard, Mariska Hutchinson. I know she's been waiting for this for a while. David Quingley, Natalie Mayring, Jacques Claessens, Reynard Burrett, Justin DP. A lot of people already tuning in. So thank you so much and welcome to the show. Shen's Love. Hi, Rob. Natalie Mayring. Hi, Darren. Bevan Hope. Hey, Deza. Nice to have you back. What do you think about the new Pirelli tires? So there's a really good question. Those are the kind of questions that we're going to be throwing at the way of the man that we've got on the live show tonight. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Martinez Lambrex. Is it cold in England, Rob? It is. It's England. It's always cold. Like, this is my bajar. I don't get changed. I just stay in one outfit the whole day because it's just it's warmer that way. And to do your own washing and electricity and cost of living, it's hot. Sean and Ronnie, I'm so glad you're joining me. You can tell the people how cold it is in the UK. Although today was hot. I think it was 12 degrees today, so it wasn't too bad. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's introduce the star of tonight's show, Mr. Darryn Binder. Darren, how you doing?
Hey, what's happening, Uncle Rob? And how's it to everyone that's tuning in?
Always good to have you, Daz. Thanks so much for making the time. It was supposed to be Tuesday, then my bags got lost at the airport, so then I had to delay it. We moved it to Wednesday night, and then luckily I remembered it was Valentine's Day, so I saved both of our relationships. So yeah, thank you to everyone for sticking around and making this on Thursday night. Daz, how's it been going? Off season, some nice time back in South Africa.
Yeah, no, it's been super good. Yeah, that off season couldn't come soon enough at the end of last year. Unfortunately, last year was tough on me, and I needed some time to heal up and get everything working the way it should again. So yeah, it was super good. Spent about 2 months back in South Africa, really just enjoying the summer. I mean, started off the holiday with a little bit of chill time, had my brother's wedding, which was cool, and yeah, then just got back into the swing of things. Body managed to heal up pretty decently, and yeah, come back over this side now. Heading off next week to Portugal for the first test, and I'm feeling ready and super keen to get that one rolling.
Okay, so probably the most important question you'll ever be asked in your entire racing career. Why are you laughing?
I don't know. I just know it's coming from the side angle.
When you go to the shops and you buy a tube of Pringles and you open it up and you see half of them are crushed, so they're not like that nice curved shaped Pringle. Like, what do you do? Does it upset you? Do you take it back? Do you get your money back? Like, how do you handle that situation?
Pringles.
Yeah.
I'll grab that Pringle box and eat them like I'm drinking a beer. I don't know.
And chug it down. Okay, Daz, you pretty much touched upon it there. 2023, your first season in Moto 2, having made the transition from MotoGP to Moto 2. Didn't quite go to plan. It was a very tough year with injuries being taken out and just a lot of unfortunate incidents. Do you think the fact that you had gone up to MotoGP and made the step down to Moto 2 kind of implemented things that you put more pressure on yourself because I'm coming down a class. I should be able to go fast on a Moto 2. I was fast on a MotoGP bike. I'm going to dominate this. Do you think that played a factor in your mindset and how the season planned out?
Not at all. Like when I came down to Moto 2, I knew obviously it was another new challenge. Bikes completely different. There was maybe one or two things that I benefited from doing a year in MotoGP. You know, I got experience on that bike and riding a really fast, heavier bike. So there was quite a few things that I could gain from that taking to Moto2, which would definitely help me transition a bit quicker. But I mean, at the end of the day, it was completely different. You know, you're jumping on a bike. Not only were we running Dunlops, we had no traction control, no wheelie control, none of that. The Trump, the 3-cylinder, they have so much torque. So, you know, in GP, you kind of get lazy in a way. Like you start to rely on the traction control and stuff. So in the beginning, like I had to really focus on not getting a little bit happy on the throttle. And yeah, I mean, overall, the first couple tests and that, I took it really chilled, you know, and I think my team, we took it as I'm a rookie in Moto2, and that's it, you know, gauge myself off the other 4 or 5 rookies that there was from Moto3. And I mean, I think I started off pretty damn good. I mean, I felt really good going into round 1 at Portugal. Unfortunately, I made a mistake and I crashed out. I picked up, I still finished 16th. And then we went to round 2. I got my best result of the year, which was 6th in Argentina. And then, unfortunately, before it even got started, really, it was over because I hurt myself in America. And I just never, ever got going from there because it was not a good thing. I hurt my hand. I got it fixed and tried to come back as soon as I possibly could. Probably should have waited a little bit longer because I came back. I wasn't riding how I should have. I got taken out of the first 2 races I was back at. I think I did 2 more rounds before I crashed and hurt my back. But during that time, I wasn't performing like I wanted to. You know, I figured when I came back, I'd be able to just fall back in where I was. And I was really struggling to get back to where I'd left off kind of thing. And a lot of it had to do with my right hand because I had one of my fingers plated to my wrist. I had very little movement in my wrist. And also just by the time Sunday came, I had so much pain in my hand that I was really struggling to keep consistent brake pressure and stuff. So I wasn't riding comfortably. And unfortunately, I got hurt in Austria, which then gave me a good 3 or 4 weeks off because I had to let my back heal. So I used that opportunity to take all the metal out of my hand. And yeah, I came back as soon as I can. But again, it was a bit touch and go because my back was just healing. I hadn't been training properly. My hand had also, I just had to chill, you know. Came back straight into one of the hardest races of my life, probably in India, like 45 degrees. And it was actually probably the second best ride of the year. I think I finished 7th in the race. And I thought, okay, cool. Now, you know, I can get this ball rolling again. And I think 2 or 3 rounds later, I had a freak accident in Malaysia where I had no brakes and I had to jump off. And that one really hurt me. It knocked my head a lot. I mean, going into I managed to ride the next weekend in Qatar, which was, I don't know how I did it, to be honest, because I really felt terrible. But yeah, you got to try and get that one behind you. But my body was just broken after that. I dislocated 3 fingers on my left hand. I had torn some tendon or something in my ankle. So that thing looked like a soccer ball around my ankle. So I came back and I managed to do the last 2 rounds. But I mean, I was just doing it to finish the year and try and get a little bit better for the last 2 days of testing before we went off onto the winter break or summer break for me. So yeah, it was a horrible year actually, but there was 1 or 2 positives. I mean, if you look at it, I think I still finished like 2nd or 3rd rookie out of the 5 of them or so. And I mean, I did basically half the rounds of the year. And even some of them, those half that I was there, I got taken out of 2 of them. So it really wasn't ideal. But yeah, I really enjoy Moto2. I really like the bike. I mean, I've got such a good team, such good people in my team. So I feel like I have everything I need to put together a really solid season. I just need to stay healthy and fit. And I mean, just take it as it comes. You know, you got to just keep building on it. And the problem is, like, if you hurt yourself and you miss 3, 4 races, in those 3, 4 races, everybody's just kind of chipping away, and you sat there doing nothing, and you come back and you think you're going to be in the same place, and it doesn't work like that. And then, you know, it really bothers you because you know you can do better, but because you've missed that track time and just time on the bike, and you're not feeling yourself, it's just, yeah, you're basically chasing your own tail kind of story.
And I think it's amplified by the fact that everyone's pretty on this much on the same machinery, tires, and everything. In MotoGP, if a Bagnaia, in Mazzano last year where he raced injured, you're still on Ducati, which is zero point 0.3, zero point 0.4, half a second better than a lot of the other bikes. So you can almost ride at 90%, 80% and get a good result. Whereas in Moto 2, and that's what makes Moto 2 so hard. I remember talking to Simon Crayford at the beginning of last year, and I was like, Daz, making the move down to Moto 2, it should kind of be a little bit easier than making the step up. And he was just like, no, Moto 2 is just, it's just the hardest. It's like the hardest league in the world type thing. And I think we saw that last year by the fact that, as you said, as soon as you lose that little bit of consistency or momentum, to try and get back into it against guys that are just turning them out, it's not as easy as it looks.
100%. And I think another thing that played into that is I was a rookie at the end of the day in Moto 2. That I'd done 2 races on the bike, got hurt, came back, and those first 2 rounds I hadn't really struggled. I hadn't struggled in testing. Every day I was getting faster, getting better, getting closer to the front. And then when you come back and now all of a sudden you're not riding the way you should, you start struggling. You start playing with setup and stuff, and you don't actually know where you are. You kind of lose the way a little bit because you're not 100%. And that's the thing. Like, although sometimes you might hurt yourself and come back straight away and still be competitive, but when you're a rookie and you don't really have like completely everything under control yet, and you still got a lot to learn, when everything goes wrong, it kind of really goes wrong.
Well, at one stage, I think we counted the laps. I think it was like 3 race meetings by race laps I'm talking. And race laps, you can't buy that experience that you get from race laps. That you can practice all you want in that, but race laps is where it really counts. There were 3 races in a row where you got taken out twice and something happened. I think it added up to like you did 5 laps within those 3 races. So you lose, as you said, you lose a lot of, and I think from our point of view and the whole world of motorcycling, it was Darryn Binder. He was in MotoGP last year. We weren't looking at you, especially the media in general. I'm talking about, in general, we weren't looking at you as Darryn Binder, the Moto 2 rookie. We were looking at you as Darryn Binder, the MotoGP rider who's come to Moto 2. And I think, sometimes that could, break up the communication and send the wrong message sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I'd still go back and do it over again. I would definitely have taken that opportunity in GP again. And yeah, I'm really, like I said, I'm super happy where I am right now in Moto 2. And although things didn't go to plan last year, it is what it is. I mean, I still gained a lot of experience last year. Even though I didn't do that many races and that, I figured things out when I had things together. I felt like I could definitely be competitive. So yeah, I think the biggest thing this year is just to stay healthy, stay fit, take what I learned last year, try and put it all together, take the opportunity of the tires being changed. I mean, that kind of sets the bar a little bit even for everybody. We're all going in, things are changing up. I mean, there was guys that have raced in Moto 2 for so many years, like Sam. I mean, those tires those Dunlops were the same for so many years. And I feel like once you really figure them out, you're doing good, So now with Pirelli taking over, it's going to really, I feel like, kind of level things out a bit. So it's a good opportunity to start fresh now this year again. As well, we're also changing to WP suspension, which is going to be pretty cool. That's quite exciting. I got a couple of days testing on them at the end of last year, and yeah, it was very interesting. I mean, we went straight out with the WP and the Pirellis, and the lap times were quite a little bit faster, but I still expect them to get even quicker over that one lap. Like your qualifying times and stuff, I expect will be smashing the lap records from the Dunlops, because those were definitely not qualifying tires. With the Pirellis, you've definitely got a lot more grip in the beginning. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Kalex has brought us for this year as well. Obviously, they were there taking in all the information of the new tires and that. So I think if they can tweak the bike a little bit to work on those tires, because I mean those frames have been built around the Dunlops because they've been there for so many years. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the first couple tests go and see what we've got, what we're working with, and yeah, it's really exciting. I don't know, it's like a breath of fresh air, something new. makes for a good thing. And at least I've got a little bit of experience on the Moto2 and feeling healthy again. So yeah, I'm dead keen to get back on the bike next Saturday.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. All things pointing in the right direction, which is great. As you said, it's like a breath of fresh air. I think it's that reset that you maybe needed, which is great. I'm going to climb into some questions here. Pin the Gas podcast, which is our good mate all the way from the States, Chris. How do you mentally prepare for a race? Any pre-race rituals?
I mean, I've been doing it for so many years now. Like you kind of just, I don't know, it's like second nature almost to roll out there on the grid. Sometimes you maybe get a little bit nervous, but as soon as you pull out the pits and you're on your bike, I mean, that's gone. So yeah, any pre-race rituals? I mean, I've always put my right boot on first. I don't know why. That's something strange I always do. And yeah, I mean, I try and eat as clean as possible, like 2 hours before the race. I either eat like chicken and rice, just plain chicken and rice, or maybe some pasta and tuna or something. Yeah, rituals. Other than that, nothing crazy. I've got the same warm up routine that I do before every session. I do the same couple exercises to get myself ready. So I suppose those are my rituals, I guess.
Didn't you have like one pair of stinky socks or undies that you just never changed? I remember something like
No,
that from
no,
another year.
no. I think you're thinking of Brad. He's the boy that loves the same pair of socks for the whole weekend. But no, I do. I have 3 pairs of South African socks, and those are my 3 Friday, Saturday, Sunday socks. I only use those, and they're the South African flag, so I love those. And yeah, other than that, nothing really.
And Zan uses acid to wash them after every race weekend, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, they get washed on their own. I'll tell you that. Don't put it in with my nice clothes.
Wayne Taylor asked a good question here. There's a lot of talk around Pedro Acosta at the moment with how well he's done in MotoGP testing so far. He was a big talking point last year. Of course, Moto2 world champion. Hi, Daz. How was it sharing a track with Pedro Acosta? Is he that special?
Yeah, I mean, yes, look at what he's done in the test. He's definitely super talented. I mean, that's really impressive. It's going to be interesting to see what happens the first couple of races, but I'm sure the kid will find his feet and he'll definitely be up there fighting for good results. And yeah, I mean, I got to ride with him a couple times on track. I never got a race against him really because I wasn't in the same league as him last year and I wasn't fighting up at the front. So yeah, I didn't really get a battle with him, but I did in Moto3 a couple of times, which was cool. But yeah, he's a very talented kid, and I mean, he's showing it. He's doing some special things so far in GP. So yeah, hats off to him. He's doing a good job.
So, Daz, when you were in those groups or riding or trying to tag onto a Foster rider in Moto2, like you said, you had the inconsistency with injuries and not always riding 100%. But where were you missing out? I mean, is it under braking? Is it still under that acceleration? Was it the tires? Is it corner speed? Where did you think you were missing out compared to the Foss guys?
I'd say probably the biggest thing for me last year, it's kind of varied depending on the track, the race. Like some tracks, I really struggled with the front confidence, in confidence. That also kind of related to the Dunlop. That tire does not give a lot of feedback. Like you'll be hundreds, the next minute it closes. So that was a point in which I struggled a little bit. And other than that, I'd say just to gain the confidence to really, once you've got the grip and it's there, just to open the gas as hard as you can and use that torque to get out of the corner. It's especially because in the beginning when I broke my hand, I high-sided in America. And I think that also ruined it for me a little bit, even though it was mixed conditions and I actually touched a wet patch. But like I said, you've got no traction control or anything to save you. So when that thing snaps, you're gone. So yeah, you really got to get that thing working so that as soon as you crack the gas and you feel this grip, that you've got to just get on the gas and open it and use all the torque to get out the corner. But yeah, I had a little bit of a mixture last year. I struggled sometimes with that front feeling, and I'm hoping that this year I can really make a step in a good direction with the Pirelli and that. And as well, even with the rear, I mean, you get a lot more feedback from these tires. They've got more grip. So definitely going to be trying my best to work on those 2 areas. And I believe if I can sort those out, I can definitely be up in the sharp end.
Okay, cool. Just a little bit of housekeeping rules as well. Big thank you to Rad Paul Husqvarna for sponsoring the page, and Ridgeway Race Bar. Ding, ding, ding. That's the news bulletin over. Airways English has got a question here. Darren, which other 2 or 3 riders have a target on their back for you this season? And a couple of people have already asked. Um,
Fuck,
in
I'm
terms
gonna
of
scrub
Moto2,
that thing tonight. I don't want a target on my back.
but I mean, Moto2 is a tricky one because, if I look at MotoGP going into the 2025 season, there's a couple of riders on the line for me: Maverick Vinales, Aleix Espargaro. There's some names, but then I think, who's really coming up from Moto2? Who's really making a stand the way that like Pedro Acosta did for Interstate, and Pecco Bagnaia in the past, and Zarco? There doesn't seem to be for this season a real standout guy. I know Vietti's moved to Io, and Io are kind of like the benchmark team to really go against. But you must be looking at it going, there's no reason why Darryn Binder can't be challenging top 5, top 3 week in, week out, and potentially putting in a good championship season.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, at the end of the day, you kind of look back. I've raced against all these guys before. I've raced against them in Moto3 and all that, and all of them last year. And I look at them and I think, okay, I've beat you before. I can do it again, type thing. And yeah, like you say, there isn't really a standout guy. So we're going to have to see what happens the first couple of rounds. And I'm pretty sure, after a couple of rounds into the championship, there'll be a little bit of a picture. We'll see who's where. But yeah, right now, I think it's kind of level playing field for everybody because we're going in on these new tires and everything, and there isn't anybody that's standing out. So yeah, I think it's going to be really good, and let's see what happens. I mean, there was guys who finished really strong at the end of the year, but again, like I said, things are going to change up for the beginning of this year, and we'll have to see how the bikes work. I mean, at the end of last year, I call it a speed up, the Bosco Scuro was really strong, but we'll have to see how that thing works on the Pirellis and how our bike's working. So it's going to be really interesting.
I'm looking at those pieces that you're talking about with Pirelli WP suspension now. I think WP suspension sounds like a good bet, especially on a Kalex that, those are race built purpose-built frames that they built for those bikes. So WP, it's a rigid suspension, but it's certainly made big headways in the last couple of years. WP, they really have closed the gap, excuse the pun, to the Olands and that kind of guys. But you've also had previous experience on Pirelli tires. Your super sport career here in South Africa was on Pirellis. Generally the Pirelli is the go-to kind of testing training tire because of the amount of grip it offers you. You touched briefly upon your testing time on the Pirellis, but was it a case of, oh, yeah, that feels much better, like that feels more at home now? As you said, the Dunlops, and I know from Dunlops as well, they're very, you could do 100 laps, and I remember a lot of Moto2 riders saying kind of you'd get really good grip for a lap or two, and then that grip would stay for 100 laps. You could put your fastest lap in right at the end. This Pirelli, while you're going to get the extra grip, which is going to be great and feel, do you think there's going to be more tire management involved compared to it was with the Dunlops?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we did 2 days of testing in Valencia just after the last race. We only had 2 compounds in the front and the rear. I think we had SE1 and SE2 front, and in the rear we had SE1 and I don't actually know what it was. It wasn't called the SE0, but it was I think it's similar to that for our bike.
Is it the tires that literally World Supersport in them use? Is it the exact same tire?
I think it's the Superbike tire. I think it's the same, what do you call it, size as a Superbike. Because I think in the rears we run the 200, and I'm not exactly sure, but I'm almost sure that it's exactly the same as the Superbike ones.
Okay.
Well, at least it was for the test.
Okay.
So yeah, it was not the best of weather when we were testing. It was super cold, and I think that could have maybe played a little factor into the tire in that. But yeah, they definitely gave a lot more feedback. I felt a lot more confident riding the bike, but they definitely do not last like a Dunlop did. So it's going to be a huge part of the racing this year, obviously, because you can always choose that softer option for the race. But time management is going to be a crucial crucial part of this, and I think it's going to be good. It's going to make the racing more interesting. You know, you're going to have guys that are going to cane it in the beginning and suffer at the end. You're going to have these guys that take it easy in the beginning and come strong at the end. So yeah, it's going to play a huge part of it, and I think it's going to make the racing quite a bit more interesting because, I mean, last year if you had the pace, that was it. You were styling. If you had race pace, the tires do not drop. You go out there. If you've got a good pace, you're in it. So it's definitely going to change things up a bit and make it interesting.
Yeah, I see. I mean, it's been a theme in World Superbikes, and I remember racing nationals in South Africa when you had the Pirellis on. You did have those two strategies. You know, you could always go at the beginning where you were ultra confident with the grip that you had, and you were going to try and manage it towards the end. Or you had the other approach where you kept a good consistent pace at the beginning, but really, kept the tire for the end. So as you said, this mixture of guys coming from the second, third row in the beginning, right up there, and then they're going to have the guys maintaining, just coming through towards the end, and that's I do. I think it's a good thing. I think it's something that Moto2, in a way, needed. I don't want to say it was getting stale or stagnant, but it was certainly, it was losing that edge with MotoGP getting all the attention with the sprint races and everything that was happening in MotoGP. Moto2 was just losing a little bit of flavor. So I think it's been a great move. Obviously, there's money behind it and all kind of other incentives. It's not just a case of going to different tires, but I think it's the right way to go. There's another big question that gets thrown my way, especially with the season that you had last year and the years before that with the team, with the likes of Schotter, Luthi, that have all ridden for the Intact team that you're part of. How competitive is your team in Moto2? I know going back to the 600 where they all ran the Honda 600 days, the team was really competitive. Tom Luthi used to challenge for titles, and the record hasn't been that great for your team in the last 4-5 years, maybe. And then us South Africans, obviously being proudly South African, we're always going to go, oh, it's not Daz, it's the team. The team's can't be Daz. How competitive is it? What's missing there? Do you think it is a case of literally maybe this WP? You've got Husqvarna backing now. Is that all going to start coming together and just elevating the whole project?
Yeah, honestly, I think there's nothing missing. I really believe that this team is absolutely one of the top teams in Moto2. You just got to, if you're at the track and you look at everything we've always got the newest material. Our bikes are always brand new. They look perfect. Everything's always absolute top notch. These guys, they don't skimp on anything. They're always buying new parts. If there's anything available, they'll get it. So, the thing is in Moto2, it's difficult to not have a good team because, I mean, if you're on a Calyx, every Calyx is the same. Obviously, then you've got the engines are all Triumph. They're sealed. That's it. We get so many for the year. They rotate at the same time. Everybody switches engines at the same time. So everything's really, really level playing field from that side. And I mean, obviously, you look at these teams and you think, okay, you got the newest parts and stuff. It's got to give you a little bit of an edge in that. But everything's so close. But yeah, I can definitely reassure you guys that I'm in one of the best teams and I'm super happy to be where I am. And yeah, I really think that this year, maybe with everything changing up, and I believe we do have super good backing from Husky as well as Liqui Moly and Husqvarna. So I think, yeah, this year it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But as long as I can stay fit and healthy and keep on doing a good job, then I think we can definitely be up at the sharp end fighting for some good results. And yeah, I don't know. I definitely believe a lot in my team. I'm really happy with them. So yeah, it's going to be. I mean, I had a really tough year last year, and I was actually lucky that they believed in me so much and gave me another opportunity because there's a lot of teams out there that would have just said, okay, well, you've been injured 3 times this year. Here's the door. Cheers. And these guys, they like a family. They're a really respected team in the paddock. So really happy to be there and looking forward to see this season and trying to give it a decent go.
Okay, Daz, now we were never going to go through this interview without bringing up the next couple or the next question. Certainly, it might be opening up a can of worms. But Stephen Berry, question for Darren. Did Jake Dixon, we're obviously talking about, did Jake Dixon personally apologize personally apologize to you after his rant, or just the excuse of an apology via the press? I mean, let's cast our minds back. Silverstone, Jake Dixon felt unfairly done by what was a really good rugby tackle by you. You know, yeah, but anyway, we look, we all know whether you're a Darryn Binder fan or a South African fan or whatever, Jake Dixon was completely out of order. I think he knows that now, but play us through that situation, the day it happened, the aftermath of that. Has there been a conversation with Jake since then?
Yeah, so basically what happened was I came in and obviously I heard the interview. So, I was going to go apologize from my side. I mean, we did have a little bit of contact and he went down, but on my side, I really couldn't see him on my outside. So in my eyes, it was a racing incident. But after I heard the interview, I felt a little bit, I was like, okay, I'm not going to say sorry. So I left it. And the next week on the Thursday when we got to the track, he came over and spoke to my team boss and that, and they had a meeting and he obviously apologized. And then they called me into the thing so that he said sorry to me. And I was like, okay, well, great, thanks. But yeah, I mean, I don't really let things like that bother me. So yeah, we carry on, and that's it. To me, it's part of racing. What happens out on track happens on track. And I think, if anything, after what happened that weekend, I think he may have learned a lesson. I think a lot of people didn't like the way he took that interview, but I mean, that's on him, not me. So yeah, we all good. I mean, I've got no bad vibes with him. So yeah, we carry on, and hopefully this year we can have some good scraps.
Okay, Laka, well, don't worry. Me and your dad will handle it when we get to Silverstone.
Yes.
You know which bathroom he goes to, so we'll sort it out. Now, it seems like you've lied to us about your rituals, because Zandria has said, yeah, you keep Gramps' coin with you.
Yeah, I got given a coin. Well, it's what do you call those things like that, open and close? Some people wear them like a necklace. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, a locket, or yeah.
Locket thing. Yeah, so I got given a locket, and it's got my mom's dad's picture in it, and it's got a good luck coin in it with some good words on the back. So yeah, I keep that in one of my little boxes that stays next to me in the box there. So yeah, that's like my good luck coin, so I keep him there.
That's
And
awesome.
when I actually had no breaks in Malaysia, it was actually it was his birthday, so he's not with us anymore. So yeah, on his birthday, so I said, yeah, no, he was definitely looking over me that day, because if I didn't jump off, I was probably on my way to visit him.
Now, Dad, tell me, I mean, I suffered the same fate, unfortunately, back in 2013, old Kalami, that feeling of no breaks. Are you still having nightmares where you kind of just sleeping and then all of a sudden have that no break feeling and wake up and headbutt Zan?
No, luckily not. It took about a week, and as soon as I got back on the bike in Qatar and rode that race, I got over it, and yeah, that was it. And then I was been training back at home, riding all kinds of bikes. And I actually had a little bit of brake fade the other day on a 600, just playing around in the go-kart tracks. And I was like, yeah, no, as soon as that thing started fading, I'm like, okay, that was my warning. I'm out. Stop, change the fluid, and check the pads and everything. But yeah, no, I'm all good now. I'm pretty confident that it's there.
Monte Leonette asks a question: does being Brad's brother affect the way people treat you in the pits?
I definitely don't think so. I mean, if anything, it would be a good thing, because he's a super good role model there, Brad. So if anything, he's maybe making things a bit easier for me, I'd hope. But no, I think everybody knows we're quite different people, and yeah, I think I got my own mates, he's got his own mates, kind of thing in the paddock. But yeah, everything's pretty normal, I'd say. I don't know.
Moira Thompson, when waiting for the race to start for those few minutes on the grid, what do you think about? Do you meditate? Do you zone out? Do you think about what's for supper?
Yeah, you don't really think about a lot, to be honest. My mind's always pretty clear when I'm sitting on the grid. You're just sitting there, you're waiting for it to kick off. It's actually kind of anxious waiting. I tell you, half of the time when you rock up to the grid, you're trying to think, do I need to pee before this race or not?
Yeah.
Am I running to the box or not? I've only got so many minutes. Do I get undressed? Do I run? Do I not? That's probably one of the biggest things you think about. But yeah, as soon as the lights go out, you always forget, even if you don't go. But yeah, I mean, on the grid, I always wait until about eight 8 minutes to go. Then I always take a gel on the grid just before the race to just keep everything high as energy as possible. And yeah, you know, you sometimes chat to the boys. They'll always ask you how the bike is, how you feel. It's always good. You only half a lap to the grid. But yeah, you know, sometimes the boss will come over and speak to you or your crew chief, and you know, it just depends. Whatever, you just have a quick chat, and mine's always clear. You know what you got to do. The lights go out, and you got to go as fast as you can for the 45 minutes and try and pass as many people as you can. If there's no one to pass, you're doing a good job.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, a very high standard was set by someone doing your helmets and boots and gloves and stuff. Zan took that over, I think, last year. So how was Zan's rookie season as well?
Well, I can tell you that I never rocked up to the box and my helmet wasn't there, so
Good.
I can't
That's what
complain. You know, we never had any failures like that, so we were good.
Good. Well done, Zan. We need you there next to our boy. Snap Eugene Jacobs. Does weight make a big difference in racing? Looking at smaller guys versus the bigger ones, is there any ideal height or weight to have an advantage in the sport? So obviously you're, and it's crazy for me to say this, that you look like one of the taller riders. Certainly you were in Moto 3, and it did hamper you there in Moto 2 as well. I mean, do you feel you had that handicap in Moto 2? In Moto 3, do you feel like you have a handicap in Moto 2?
Definitely not. I mean, in Moto 2, you got a lot more power, as well as the weight limits more than Moto 3. So it's bike and rider combined. And actually, going into this year, as far as I know, they've upped the limit a couple more kilos as well. So I'm going to be really quite close, like maybe 2-3 kilos over the weight limit. So right now, looking at a Moto 2, I'm the perfect size and weight for the bike. I think the smaller riders, like in the past, a lot of them have struggled on Moto 2. It seemed like the really short guys struggled to load the front and stuff quite a bit. But saying that, last year, Sergio Garcia, I mean, he's really small. He killed it. So he really impressed a lot of people last year, not only as a rookie, but just as a small guy. He really did well. So it's going to be interesting to see this year, though, because if you are really light, you're going to have to carry more weight on the bike. So yeah, it's going to be cool to see. I think they've upped it. I think it's like 2 or 4 kilos. So I mean, if you are quite a few kilos under and you got to chuck another 4 on, it's definitely going to make things a bit more tough, eh?
Yeah, it definitely changes things up quite a bit. We've seen it with Alvaro Bautista in World Superbike testing. You know, putting weight on just change at the level you guys are at. It just changes things. 1 kilo can change a lot. Paul Gallimore's got a question here, and it's quite a good question because it's confusing. You watch Moto 2, you see a KTM branded IO bike out front, you see your Husqvarna branded bike, you see a Gas branded bike, you know, you see all these bikes, and essentially they're all Kalex, most of them, other than the Bosco the MV Augusta, and 1 or 2 others. But Kalex is very much the one. And the question here is the actual bike as competitive as the KTMs and the other bikes in terms of handling, torque, suspension, and speed? Now, you say you've changed now to WP suspension. I assume the IO team are running that. And in terms of general in the Moto 2 with Kalex being the main chassis supplier, do you guys have access to all the kind of Kalex chassis settings? So if Acosta was winning on the Kalex, are you able to pull his data?
So yeah, going into this year, it'll be Gas, KTM, and Husqvarna running WP suspension. Just those 3 brands. Everybody else will be on the Olin still. So I'm hoping that change could maybe bring a small benefit. You know, hopefully we can make a little bit of an improvement over the standard Olins that we had. So yeah, it could be interesting. It could give us a slight advantage, hopefully, if they can get it right. And yeah, so you can't pull the data from, even though there's so many guys on the Calyx, there is Calyx guys that come to the box and they take down everyone's stuff and they go over it. And sometimes they'll come and give you advice, and say, okay, try this or try that, but you'll never be able to just grab the data from somebody. They always give you, I think they call it an ideal lap. So you don't know who it's from. It's normally from the year before, though, like the lap record from the year before and the fastest Calyx rider or whatever. So when you're coming into that weekend, you get that ideal lap and you can see, okay, this is where it was fast, this is where it was slow. But also at the same time, every year the conditions are changing. And I mean, also the lap time last year to this year, it's always improving. So that lap record from last year might not even be that great this year. So yeah, there is a bit of help, but nothing, you can't just say, okay, what's he doing type thing. But yeah, it's I think sometimes, that doesn't always work either. You got to kind of figure it out for yourself and just work tightly with your team and follow your feeling. And, you get that understanding between each other. And when you start finding a good direction, you got to run with it.
So, I mean, the same kind of question could be posed on the Triumph side. You all run the same Triumph engines, blah, blah, blah. How much internally can you, as a team and rider, change there in terms of gear ratios and stuff? What are the rules with that in Moto2? Because I know, especially with a triple motor that's not a screamer engine, it doesn't rev to 19, 20,000 and that, gear ratios. I know when I raced the Triumph, gear ratios were the biggest advantage that we found is when I got the gear ratio right for a track, it really did click. How flexible are you with changing stuff when it comes to the Triumph engine?
Yeah, so I mean the Triumph engine's sealed, so obviously that's the gearbox is closed in there. So the only thing we can play with the ratios is the sprockets, and they play between, I can't remember the size. What is it? A 520 and a chain and a whatever other chain you get. I don't know. So depending on those chains, they can run different, obviously, ratios with the different sprockets. So they play a lot with that. And yeah, I mean, you watch the onboard cameras and stuff, everybody is so similar. You might be like a K longer here type thing or a little bit shorter, but majority, 90% of the time, everybody's pretty much running the same because you can't change the internal. So you can't put like a longer third or whatever. So yeah, I'd say everyone's very similar on that side of things, but it's also a lot of that plays into like your swing arm length. So you can't always change the sprocket to be a little bit shorter here or that, because sometimes if you got to change the swing arm length, it changes the way the bike works for us quite a lot. So like if you find a swing arm length that you're really comfortable with, you normally try and work around there. So you might be a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, but I'm talking it's not really that much. So yeah, on that side of things, I mean, and then obviously the electronics, like you can change engine brake in every gear and play with that type of stuff. But there is what do you call them? Like, I don't know what you call them. Like torque maps. So if you take 30% of throttle, you can make it that it comes in slowly, like smooth, or you can put it 1-to-1. But I mean, on these bikes, they obviously are really quite strong, but they're not strong enough to really, really dive too deep into that. You're better off just having 1-to-1. So whatever you ask is what you get. So it's all in your hand, because there's nothing worse than if you grab the throttle and you need more power and that thing's
deciding
in linear. So yeah, it's better to just run it 1-to-1 and you just got to use your hand.
Sean Wilders asked the question, obviously coming from MotoGP. How much did your brake markers change going from carbon in MotoGP back to steel in Moto2? And did you find it difficult to adjust? Brad mentioned in an interview, when the carbons are cold, you have nothing, and when they are heated, they're super strong.
Yeah, so funnily enough, to be honest, the brake marks don't change that much from Moto2 to MotoGP. Even though you're arriving so much faster with those carbon brakes, you're able to brake so late. So yeah, they definitely didn't change too much, to be honest. Obviously, some tracks, depending how fast you're arriving in that, but yeah, I'd say not a massive difference. And I'd say it was much more difficult to go onto carbon brakes and to come back to steel, because I mean, I've grown up riding steel brakes my whole life. All my training bikes have steel brakes, so that's just normal. That's a normal brake. So it was more tricky to get used to the carbons in the beginning, because especially those first like outlap and stuff, you got to warm them up. They work nothing when they're cold, so that was definitely more tricky to learn how to use them than to come back.
Airwaves English here has a favor to ask you. Daz, my second best mate, not my first best mate, my second best mate, Bruce, is racing super singles at Desi's racetrack in Port Shepstone soon. Please, can you wish him luck? So wish Bruce luck.
I wish you all the best of luck, bud. Go out there, have a flippant jaw, and when you're done, go hit the village tavern down the road and jaw it up.
And just don't take Airwaves English, who's your second best friend. Don't take him. Find your first best friend and take him. Mariska Hutchinson, Daz, please never lose that SA fight. We are all super proud of you and how you handle triumphs, losses, praise, and criticism. I know you are a great role model for my boys who absolutely love you. Oh,
thank you very much. I do appreciate it. And yes, the support back home, it's unreal. It's so good. Every year it's growing more and more. The other day I went out to Kyalami to watch the classic TT, and it was so great to catch up with some people there, and a lot of the fans were there. It was cool to see everybody, and it was really nice to know that we got such great support at home. And I mean, it's even this side. Every race we go to, every year there's more and more South Africans at races, and you always see a flag somewhere, that's my favorite thing to do. When you're riding out on a cool down lap or whatever, you're coming to the box, I have a little squiz around and you see a flag and you're like, yeah, love that one.
Okay, so that's your superpower. So remember that if you go to a track, put a South African flag up there. Let's do it. Mariska, as always, just one that's supported from day one. MRW, the previous stuff I've done, and you guys. So Mariska and your boys, just thank you so much for all the support and keep it coming. We love it. Hi, Daz and Rob. Will Moto2 follow MotoGP with aero on bikes? I don't think they have
as far as I know, it's banned in Moto2 and Moto3. And I'm pretty sure they'll keep it that way just to try and keep it more cost effective, I guess. And I mean, I really can't see it making that much of a difference on a Moto2. They're just not fast enough. And maybe it might make a lap time a little bit quicker if they made something, but I don't see it happening. I think, if anything, I think MotoGP needs a little bit less of it.
Well, we could go. There could be a whole episode in itself. It's getting crazy now with aerials on the back of seats and picking up Days of Our Lives and all kinds of stuff. Gary Radley, how's it, Brew from Germany? My missus is your cousin. Her mother is Beverly Binder. Nikki Radley. Yes, they're all over the place, these Binders.
I tell you, bud, I think that's where we must have come from. That's why I'm riding for a German team. That's why they love me.
This is now, Johnny Martin says, question from Daz at RAO. Brew, where do you start this thing? What does that mean? Johnny Martin's question from Daz at RAO. Brew, where do you start this thing? It's an in-house one. Johnny, explain yourself, my bad. We need to know. We need to know what that means. Just going through the comments here. I'm playing catch up quite a lot here, so just give me 2 seconds. Zandria, thank you. Oh, there we go. Nice. Zandria here, well done, Jazza. It's just Zandria's becoming popular. Let me tell you, stick with me and I'll make you famous. This is what's happening.
Oh yeah.
There was a really good question. I suppose the nice thing about going Pirelli now, as well as you think about it, is that kind of same feel you get from the tires that you can buy off the shelf is very similar to your race tire. Whereas Dunlop, it was not, you couldn't buy that tire basically. So training on Pirellis is really going to now translate into your race weekends.
100%. I mean, and like you say, obviously back in the day, racing 600s and that in South Africa, that's what we rode, even though they were the cut slicks. But I mean, it's still kind of the same thing. And then, but always, I mean, when I'm at home training on like a R1 and that, it's it's the best tire to go out and ride at the tracks. You know, you get a lot of laps in it. If you run like a SE1 or SE2, you don't go to the super soft ones. You can do a lot of laps. They give you really good feedback, and yeah, I mean, it's obviously now for me, it's super beneficial because that's what I'm going to be racing. So yeah, obviously the bikes are a bit different, but if you can be one step closer using the same tires as you're racing with, it's definitely going to benefit you.
Now, what is the rules in terms of, obviously Triumph bring out a street triple, which is, you know, a Moto 2 version, but it's the production version, which is nowhere, well, I say nowhere near the race bike that you race, but it's the similar engine configuration, just not kind of expressed in the full way that it can be. What are the rules in terms of that? Can you buy one of those, you know, change the upright bars? Can you turn that into a Moto 2 replica, or Triumph actually released a Moto 2 replica? Can you buy one of those and do training on those?
As far as I know, you're not allowed to ride a Triumph because it's the same engine as you race.
Okay.
I believe that was the rule. I'm not 100% sure. And honestly, like the bike that gives me the closest feeling is a superbike. Superbike has about the same amount of torque in that as what our Moto 2s do, really. And that's probably the closest thing to train on, even though the frame and stuff is quite very different in the way the bike rides. But I mean, power in that, I'd say the superbikes are probably the closest to it. So yeah, I mean, there's not one person I've ever seen riding a Triumph, so I'm pretty sure that's not allowed.
So your, just to get an idea, your 1988 R1 that you ride here in South Africa for some strange reason, your dad won't buy you a nice new R1. No, you ride it. I think it's a 2017 spec R1, eh?
Yeah, I think so.
So that's a 1000cc R1 big bang motor. I know it's not highly modified, the one that you ride. So you're telling me that in South Africa, the Kalami or Red Star, that, you know, with the air temperature and the less, you know, the reduced horsepower because of the air temperature, I've obviously run one of those. Is that how much power or similar power that you race a Moto 2 in your race weekends with?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's pretty close. I mean, honestly, if anything, I think a Moto 2 might even have a little bit more torque than a R1 up
Yeah.
in South Africa. I mean, we're quite high up there at like Kyalami and that. So yeah, I think the R1, obviously, I think the top end is probably a bit more than the Moto 2, but yeah, feeling wise, it's pretty similar down low, and it's probably one of the best things to train on. But at the same time, you don't want to do too many laps on it because it really feels a lot different to a Moto 2. So you don't want to get too comfortable in the R1. It's good to keep everything sharp and keep riding in that. But yeah, it's not something I ride every day because I don't want to get too comfortable on that. When I jump on my real race bike, it'll feel like I've gone from a couch to sitting on a wooden floor.
Robin Kidwood asked a question about Moto 2 steering damper use and feel. Can you easily manually adjust it on the fly? I actually didn't even think about steering dampers on your race bikes.
The steering damper is, as far as I can remember, it's in the front. So you can't get to it while you're riding, that's for sure. But I mean, yeah, you can change whatever you want with your steering damper. You come in, you tell your guys, okay, make it softer, make it harder, whatever. You can, that's open. You do what you like. But
Is it something you
definitely
do?
can't get to it on the fly. Yeah, sometimes, sometimes I play with it, depending on the track, depending on the wheelie. Like sometimes you get a little bit of head shake and stuff, so you might make it a bit stiffer. And I actually like to make it as loose as possible. So if I'm getting like a bit of head shake and that, I'll stiffen it up. But otherwise, I try and lay it on the softer side. I just like to, I don't know, let the bike feel loose. Sometimes when they're really quite stiff, I feel like when you start sliding into a corner and stuff and you're backing it in and that, like when you turn the handlebars, I feel like you're fighting it almost.
Yeah, it does the same. I always used to run it. So, and that was one of the biggest thing I saw when I used to do track day training with some riders. And the first thing I check is their dampers, and it would be on its hardest setting. Like, you know, when you push it in the pits and you almost fall over, and you're like, and
your bike just wants to go straight.
Yeah, you just back it off a couple, and the guy would go like 6 seconds faster. Like, Rob, you're the greatest trainer ever. Yeah, no, I'm fantastic. Meanwhile, it was just some damper settings. Yeah, Des, and I know the Pringles question was probably the hardest question you'll ever be asked in your entire career, but here is one. John McLaughlin, Des, brandy, Coke, or beer? Brandy and Coke or a beer? Yes, that's a tough one.
um, yeah, it is a real tough one that because yeah, I always love a good beer. Definitely enjoy a good beer, but this
Do you
past
drink?
December, I've uh, I've definitely made my way onto the brandy train,
Okay.
especially after my brother's wedding. Yeah, I do enjoy a good brandy and coke. I won't lie, and it's something we don't get over here. Well, you can get it some places, but it don't taste the same. So yeah, I won't lie. When I go home, I wouldn't mind a good brandy and coke, but I'm gonna have to get some real good results so we can have a reason to sink a couple.
That's so weird. I don't think I've ever seen you drink. I didn't know that. Uh, Theft Agriculture. Darren, what's your prediction on your chance and where do you think you will end up on the standings from Leonard? I know that's a tough question. And, you know, you guys, you go on every single race meeting to win races and win championships. But with the season that you had last year, all the factors that you have to take in, competition for this year, the change to Pirelli, WP, you still, you know, progressing. Let's be realistic here. Your rookie season last year, you completed 60% of the overall laps that were maybe available. So you're still playing catch up in many ways in your career. But what is the realistic aim that you and the team want this year?
I mean, my realistic aim for me is to be in the top five. I mean, I
Hmm.
know I can do it. I know I've got everything I need to do it. I have to do it because that's where I need to be. I want to be up there. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, we're going to have to see where we start.
Hmm.
As soon as we do the first couple tests and that, we'll know exactly more or less where we are. And, you know, although I want to be up there, if I'm not at the beginning, that's it. That's my starting point. And then I build towards that, you know. As long as I get there in the end, I'll be happy. So if I can get into the top fives, fighting for podiums and stuff, and you know, if you can be in amongst the top five, you finish fifth, sixth, seventh, whatever, a couple times. The next thing it's fourth, fifth, third, whatever. You know, you just got to keep chipping away at it. And I mean, at the end of the day, this year it's a really good chance for me to find my way back into MotoGP. I mean, if I can have a solid Moto2 year, a lot of people's contracts are up at the end of this year. So, you know, that's got to be my goal at the end of the day. That's where I want to be again. I want to go back to MotoGP. That's the ultimate. So, yeah, the goal is to try and find my way into the top five, be as consistent as possible, get some good results in as early as I can, and yeah, put together a solid year and hopefully find my way fighting for a MotoGP seat again.
Like, I love it. So probably the hardest question that you've ever been asked, other than Pringles or brandy and Coke or beer, and probably 10 times tougher than any MotoGP season or Moto2. A lot of people asking about Roof of Africa. Now
Oh, yeah.
you shot home on a plane, landed, well, they probably just dropped you out of the sky like like one of those Rambo movies with your knife and your backpack and your paint. You rolled in the dirt, put your gear on, and you jumped on a bike and you rode the Roof of Africa. No pre-planning, no training for it. No, you like just off you go with your backpack and your brother. How was that whole experience?
Yeah, I can tell you it's a tough experience for sure. Yeah, so I had Friday, Saturday, Sunday was the race in Valencia. I had testing Monday and testing Wednesday. So I got a day off Tuesday. I did 4 days of riding, a day off. I tested until I think 5 o'clock on Wednesday. Jumped in my car, drove 4 hours to Barcelona airport, just made the flight, flew straight home. I missed around the houses and all of that. I think I landed at like 3 o'clock on, I can't even remember. I think it was, yeah, that was Thursday afternoon. Landed at 3 o'clock, and my dad picked me up from the airport, drove me through to Lesotho. We got there so late. Obviously, we stopped and ate along the way and whatever. We got there so late. I woke my brother up. I'm like, bro, where's everything? Have you got me gear? Have you got me a camel bag? I need a GPS. Like, he's like, bro, I don't know what's going on. He's like, there's zero organization. Yeah, he didn't know what was cutting. He's like, we're just gonna go with the flow. I'm like, sweet, hundreds. You know, woke up at 4 in the morning, all I wanted to do was turn my alarm off and go back to bed. I was already dead before we even started. And yeah, luckily I pulled off with Brad because he had done around the houses and like the little prologue or whatever, the time trial thing. So I just pulled up next to Brad, and I think everyone was like, "What is this guy doing?" And I just rode off. I'm like, "Well, going with him." Uh, my GPS actually didn't work the first day. It was giving me terrible trouble. So I just followed Brad. I'm like, "Bro, you do not leave me. I'm following you. If I lose you, I don't know where I'm going." And yeah, it was tough, super tough. I think we did 8.5 hours or something the first day. And yes, I can tell you, I was cramping. I ran out of water at one point. I really was not prepared for that race, and that was my first time on an enduro bike. But said and done, it was good fun. I had a lot of good fun. Um, I mean, everybody that rides enduro is such cool people. Everyone was there to help us. We got to a fuel stop and we couldn't find our fuel. People were grabbing people's fuels that they'd already been there and they'd passed through, and they're like, "These guys are through. Grab this one," helping us fill up. And it was a great adventure. And I mean, luckily I had Brad there with me. I mean, that makes it a lot cooler, when you got to going out riding with your brother, just having a good time. But I can tell you, I was ready to quit that last day. I was done. I was tired. I had holes in my hands. My fingers still weren't right from the crash in Malaysia. My ankle was killing me, but oh, Brad, he doesn't quit, and I wasn't going to let him ride on his own. So I made it to the end, and I'm glad I did. Right now, I'm saying it's a one done thing, but I know my brother will probably, you know, towards the end of the year, be like, "Oh, should we do it again?" But I'm glad I did it, but it was super tough.
It's talking about Brad. Jacques Clausen's asks you now. So staying on his own now that Brad's managed, you have. I know we would talked about if you beat Brad in MotoGP at stage, he was kick you out the house, but you've left on your own terms.
Yeah, no, I left. I left last year around April, but I mean, I'm about 500-600 meters down the road from him. So we meet at the coffee shop every morning before we go for a cycle, and yeah, I'll probably see him about 2 or 3 times every day.
So you haven't
Do
moved out.
everything together, and although I moved out, luckily I left all my motorbikes in his garage, so got to go back there every day to help load. And no, we see each other, we train together every day, so it's good.
Nice. Carly de Klerk asked, "Does you and Brad live in Spain or Andorra half of the year? How's your Spanish, Italian? Have you guys learned the language, or how much do you understand from America?"
Yeah, so I've actually been over here for quite a couple of years now, but unfortunately, I haven't picked it up. I haven't exactly put the most effort into learning Spanish. It would be really helpful if I did. Uh,
Mhm.
it would be really good, especially like buying houses and stuff. Yeah, it was quite complicated. You had to translate a lot of things and had a lot of people helping us. But yeah, unfortunately, MotoGP, there's the main language is kind of English. Everybody speaks English, so you get by just fine, just being English. So yeah, it's never been a super necessary thing to learn. So I just haven't. I mean, anytime I do have free time, I want to be learning another language. I want to be chilling. So I understand a little bit. Like I normally can pick up the topic of a conversation. I know what they're talking about. A lot of words I still don't know. I can order a coffee at the coffee shop and whatever. So I get by. But yeah, it would have been something cool if I did pick it up one day.
Or maybe one day. Oh yeah, I don't. No, I'm way too lazy or undisciplined to try and learn language. That's why I moved to the UK, where they speak basic English. Yeah,
Basic. Just
it's
shorten the
been
words.
yeah, they do. It's not, "Hey, let's go to the house." It's, "Let's go house." Huh? It's a different language. And Sean and Ronnie, I love your accent. Just keep talking to me with that accent. Daz, been absolute pleasure having you. Thank you so much. It's always a joy chatting to you. It's really a nice open conversation. Everyone's loving it here. Everyone's just saying, just keep doing what you're doing. Keep smiling. Keep being positive.
Thank you.
Just keep going the way you are, even when the world is kicking you down, and I know it's happened a lot in the last, you really have taken a lot on the last 2 years, but you're doing the right thing. You handling it the right way. You're presenting yourself the right way. And this year, I can feel it's the year. Feel it's the year. And just know, in those dark times when you think the world's against you, just know that you've got each and every one of us right behind you and supporting you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you guys so much. And it was super cool to be on here again. And thank you everyone for all the support. And yeah, I've reset. I'm coming out swinging again. So ready to get rolling again.
Love it, Daz. Thanks so much, man. All the best to you. Hopefully we'll chat soon. I'll definitely see you at Silverstone with James Dent. James Dent will definitely see you in Qatar. A lot of people are saying, hey, Daz, we're going to see you in Qatar. So there'll be a lot of South African flags there. And yeah, until then, all the best. I'll definitely, when you do look at your WhatsApp, you'll see a message from me. I'll tell Zan we said hello, and stay beautiful. And until next, all the best, my buds.
Shots, appreciate it. Thanks, catch you guys soon.
Cheers, Daz. What a superstar. Just absolutely love Daz. Thank you to everyone for tuning in, all the great questions, all the support. It just means a lot. Remember, please, if you're on YouTube, like this video, subscribe to the channel. We've got some great content always coming. Still going to do our Talking MotoGP from the Sepang testing. We're going to hopefully do that next week, Tuesday. I'm going to try and rope in Simon Crayfostel for an interview. So yeah, we do everything we can behind the scenes to try and keep you all entertained. A big thank you once again to Rad Pol. Go check out their Facebook page, and of course Rad KTM in Sandton, Rad Pol out in Cape Town, Ridgeway Race Bar, the only and the best place to go watch MotoGP in Joburg, situated in Stoneridge and Edenvale. And just a big thank you to everyone for all the support and all the comments. It really just does mean so much. When my family's sitting downstairs and take the time out to do this kind of thing, this makes it worthwhile. So thank you so much, and just keep supporting. Until next time, stay glued to our channel, our Facebook and YouTube. Keep a lookout for our Talking MotoGP links going. It's almost time to go racing, people. It's almost time to go. Guys, put those weed eaters, lawnmowers, put them away. MotoGP is almost back. Ladies, put all the baking stuff away. You don't have to bake anymore on Sundays. MotoGP and World Superbikes is almost back. Thank you so much. All the best, and chat to you all soon. Goodbye.